This is my most brutally honest breakdown. The unteachable case zombie patterns that kill day game progress. Too offensive for the main channel. If you're still here on the second one, you're not one of them.
What the truth? You can't handle the truth.
This video is for educational and observational purposes only. I am not diagnosing anyone. No real names or identities are shown. Any resemblance to real people is purely coincidental. Most day gamers fail not from lack of looks or game, but because deep personality and mindset issues silently crush their progress as unteachable cases. I know it sounds crazy because we're so used to hearing about direct compliments, approach volume, game or looks, and while you think that is important, I'm going to share 3 issues with you today that's going to revolutionize the way you understand your own behavior and why you keep failing in day game as an unteachable case in 2026. So what is the real reason you're stuck for day game in 2025 with direct game? The first issue is unteachable cases with cluster B and cluster C personality disorders for day gamers. It's the toxic mix of cluster B and cluster C personality traits that crush your progress during a tariff and inflation era in 2025. The big idea here is these students are a toxic mix of sociopathy, narcissism, borderline, and histrionic personality disorder, combined with cluster C, avoidant personality disorder, and hypersensitivity. They also have severe ADHD or Asperger's-like traits that make them unable to learn, remember, or build habits. Since your brain won't build a new habit if you keep taking a 3-day break or more. They rage quit, procrastinate, and never finish drills due to severe ADHD and low self-esteem. Their brain's cortisol overloads and shrinks their hippocampus, wiping their memory and making progress impossible, since they can't remember anything new like zombies. This is important because these unteachable cases waste your time and energy. They never improve, never get laid, and often attacks my proven day game system with 672 laid and pull testimonials, instead of fixing themselves. If you are an unteachable case and fail all the homework assignments without any memory whatsoever, while you are avoidant and you run away constantly, why should you even get a refund? Why should I reward bad behavior? You can't come in here and act like a zombie and realize, oh, it's not for you. Maybe you found out you weren't coachable and you are a cluster B narcissist, borderline emotional snowflake, along with an avoidant personality disorder. You are a runner, a loser. You can't just barely show up and not adapt too because you have no memory like a zombie. How is that my fault? Take some responsibility and show up instead. Recognizing this toxic mix helps you avoid wasting my precious time because you are a loser. The second issue is the winner and loser effect, fueled by cortisol and severe ADHD. The main thing to understand here is that winners are rewarded with testosterone and momentum, taking more risks and improving fast. Losers stack cortisol from stress, anxiety, and failure, which shrinks their brain's memory center called the hippocampus and destroys motivation. Severe ADHD and Asperger's syndrome narrow focus make this worse for unteachable cases, causing mental blinking and intermittent shutdowns during coaching, trapping them in a vicious cycle of low self-esteem and delusions, not to mention procrastination and early quitting. This means cortisol and ADHD don't just make learning hard. Cortisol physically damages the brain's ability to form memories, meaning no habit building, no progress, and a fast track to quitting. Unteachable cases has no memory. They go back to the starting line every single time. The third issue is emotional blindness and ego defense distortion that block real progress. Many unteachable students have alexithymia, meaning they can't feel or recognize emotions, even in their own voice. They're delusional about how they come across to women, often sounding angry or depressed without realizing it. Their ego twists reality in real time like augmented reality in a VR goggles, making them think they're right and I, the coach, is gaslighting them, leading to meltdowns, not to mention blaming and smear campaigns, or rage quitting by stonewalling. This is key because without emotional awareness, these students can't adjust their behavior or improve for unteachable cases. They live in a distorted reality and keep failing despite coaching. If they can't perceive their own mistakes because you are delusional as fuck, they can't hear their mistakes for their homework infields or homework assignments. Then I say that is your cousin's audio, not you, for their infield audios. So their ego filter shuts off, and they can finally hear their mistakes. Then the unteachable case student think that is the worst audio they ever heard when the ego is separated from them, because they think the audio is from their cousin, not them. Then after a minute, all of their mistakes are masked again by their egotistical low self-esteem brain. They can't perceive their mistakes again because they are cluster B personality delusional zombies. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's that maybe you are just overthinking it, or maybe your memory isn't that bad, or you don't really have those personality issues. Maybe you just need to try harder. Or maybe this is just how you are and nothing can actually fix it. Because you are a massive narcissist with low self-esteem with an avoidant personality, like cluster B with cluster C personality disorder of an unteachable case. Well, the tricky thing is that these issues aren't just in your head. They're hardwired into your brain chemistry and habits. If you don't address them, you'll keep repeating the same cycle, blanking out, quitting, blaming, and never seeing real results. Unlike my good students who gets late for day game. This original video was the sequel to the first video. It was called Why Some Men Are Unteachable Cases for Cold Approach Pickup Part 2. It offended so many people, they all got turned off because it's the truth. We are almost done with the cluster B and cluster C topic. After this, we move on to more practical training. This is not to insult you. It is to filter out the wrong students and protect the right ones. Borderline plus ADHD plus alexithymia plus Asperger syndrome on top of cluster B and C equals unteachable cases. Don't join if this is you. Did you know that there is more than just cluster B and cluster C personality disorder for unteachable cases? And in my teaching experience, the worst students always have other overlapping issues too. I know it sounds crazy because we are so used to hearing about a numbers game and mass approaching with tactics and being told you are enough. But I am going to share 4 issues with you today that will change how you understand why you are stuck with day game, because it goes beyond cluster B and cluster C. In case you do not remember, let's get on the same page. Cluster B means sociopath, narcissism, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder. Cluster C means avoidant personality disorder. When cluster B and cluster C stack together, that is what creates an unteachable case. Now we are on the same page. And the people with these traits almost always have the same overlapping issues every single time. So what is borderline personality disorder, ADHD, alexithymia, and Asperger syndrome, overlapping with cluster B and cluster C traits and branching out for the unteachable cases? The worst unteachable cases always have extra issues stacked on top of cluster B and cluster C. And the worse the student is, the more of these traits stack together. Normal pickup artists are usually more cluster B, not cluster C, so they might have some of these traits, but they do not have all of them. So the first issue is borderline personality disorder. The big idea here is borderline personality gets you triggered fast, so you quit right away. Mood swings, meltdowns, rejection feels personal. After 2 or 3 rejections, you quit day game for good. Then cluster B grandiose narcissism stacks on top. So even neutral feedback feels like a personal attack. You interpret my text and audio messages on WhatsApp for coaching as hostile, even if there is no evidence of it, and it is all in your own borderline personality disorder perception. So you get massively butthurt, you get moody, and you interpret coaching as hostility. This is important because borderline personality disorder makes you quit fast. After 3 days of approaches, it feels like 3 strikes and you are out. The rejection hurts so much, you run away. Then cluster C avoidance kicks in, so you disappear instead of building reps for resilience. The second issue is ADHD mixed with cluster C avoidant personality disorder. The main thing to understand here is ADHD plus cluster C is a total disaster. Homework gets skipped. Days get skipped. Habits need consistency. If you skip more than 2 days, your brain does not assimilate the drills. So you show up every 3 or 4 days and you forget. Then no habits get built. So you fall back on mass approaching and tactics, which reinforces bad habits. Then depression starts creeping in. And with alexithymia, you do not even notice it. You just walk around with a massive frown. Then tariffs and stress adds more cortisol. So you spend so much money as retail therapy to reduce your depression. Now you are broke. Now you are in 5-figure debt. Then you get more delusional and start half-assing everything. Then you start acting like the gatekeeper, deciding what is the truth or not, like you have a mental bouncer guarding the door to a nightclub, or your mind treating opinions like facts, while dismissing my advice like a stupid fucking zombie. You say stupid stuff like, I do not want to sing through my speech, even though it fixes your depressed tonality and shitty voice. Or you say, I do not want a haircut, but you look like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Or you say, I do not want supplements because I am scared of side effects. Then you melt down, smear campaigning me, creating a false narrative. Then you stonewall. Then you stop replying even when I am trying to help. And if Asperger syndrome is on top of that, you might be good at one narrow focused job. Engineering. Some logical job. Maybe a specialized job like a magician, which most people can't do without Asperger's. But building a second skill like day game becomes brutal because consistency is not there. This means ADHD robs your self-esteem. It makes you delusional. It makes you half-ass the drills. You make bad decisions. Then you quit and stonewall. So you never get the reps that build real day game skills. It takes 30 days in a row to develop a new habit. not skip 3 or 4 days, which builds nothing. Then you blame me, even though you ran away. That is cluster C, or avoidant personality disorder. And cluster B stacks on top. The third issue is alexithymia. Alexithymia means emotional blindness. Unteachable cases will say they cannot hear their own mistakes in the audio homework they send me. They sound angry, or they sound depressed, but they think I am gaslighting them. On top of that, their delusion stacks on top. So you also get ego defense distortion. That is where the unconscious mind misinterprets reality to protect the ego and maintain a positive self-image. Mix ego defense distortion with alexithymia, and emotions become invisible. Sure, a higher SMV guy with this problem might still get girlfriends from Tinder, or even some lays from night game, but day game will destroy you if you do not have high SMV. Every stonewalling unteachable case student I have had has this issue. They cannot understand women's feelings. When they hear their day game in fields, they cannot hear any emotion. Then they say they have been like this their whole life and everything was fine. It was not fine for day game. On average, the unteachable cases have alexithymia. This is key because if you cannot hear your own anger or depression, or you're sighing at the end of your sentence, which is caused by you being broke, then women get turned off. And if you cannot interpret it, you will say, I am gaslighting. Then you cannot improve because you cannot perceive the problem. The fourth issue is Asperger's syndrome. A lot of the unteachable cases with Asperger's syndrome have it the worst. Asperger's syndrome is high-functioning autism. It is not as severe as classic autism. Most of these guys have a technical job, engineer, accountant, something specialized. They have a narrow focus, so all their neural pathways get built for one skill. They can get world-class at that one thing, but it comes at the expense of everything else. So building a second skill like day game becomes brutal. Now mix Asperger's syndrome with ADHD. Cortisol goes up, focus goes down. Then the brain starts shutting down on step 2. Anything with multiple steps breaks them. Step 1 is fine. Step 2 is shaky. Step 3, they crash. You see it in their drills. A simple sequence still gets messed up. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold for 16 seconds. Breathe out for 8 seconds. Do this 10 times. And it still comes back wrong. Not because they are lazy, because the second and third step overloads their corpus callosum, the middle part of their brain that is weakened with Asperger's. That is why Asperger's syndrome becomes a curse when it stacks with cluster B and cluster C. This is key because most unteachable cases are engineers or have specialized logical jobs. Learning multiple skills is hard for them, so they quit. They stonewall. Sometimes they smear campaign. Even if the coaching is perfect, the student still has to be coachable. Responsibility still matters. Now, I know what you are thinking. You are not an unteachable case. You just need to make more approaches. Well, the tricky thing is, inflation and tariffs are affecting your state of mind. Pair cluster B and cluster C with these other traits, and it becomes a disaster. Quitting happens fast. So do not join my training if this sounds like you. Get lost. Now that you understand the extra layers, borderline, ADHD, alexithymia, Asperger's syndrome, let's connect it back to the last video. The last video was about cluster B mixed with cluster C, and why that combo creates unteachable cases. This video is just the expansion, the stuff that always stacks on top. If I ever get more unteachable cases, I would send this video to them and make them watch it for reference. The next video talks about cluster C personality disorder. It means avoidant personality disorder, or when people run away from day game due to economic stress of the tariffs and high food inflation, then quit turning mecto. The number one reason you keep running and quitting day game. You've got avoidant personality disorder. Watch this and break the loser cycle. This video is about you. Stop being a cluster C runner zombie and start getting laid faster. Did you know that avoidant personality disorder is for losers? It's a biological stress response that erases your memory and destroys habits, making you flee or run away. I know it sounds crazy because we're so used to hearing you just need motivations, or direct game tactics, or RSD zombie mass approaching in 2025. While that's important, I'm going to share 3 issues with you today that will revolutionize the way you understand your brain, your stress, and how you build habits that actually stick. Instead of running away, which is the second worst trait, next to losing your memory due to cortisol-like issues. Like in the last video where I talked about how it shrinks your hippocampus, the part of your brain that installs memory into your mental hard drive, which is broken due to cortisol. So what is the real reason most men quit and never progress in day game in 2025? then run away, turning megto, or having meltdowns. It's cluster C personality disorder or avoidant personality disorder. So the first issue is cluster B plus cluster C creates constant meltdowns and memory loss. The big idea here is avoidant personality or cluster C. They run from pressure. At cluster B, narcissistic sociopath, borderline personality, or histrionic personality disorder, and you get meltdowns followed by quitting. When cortisol spikes, the hippocampus shrinks and the memory is gone. You can't learn new things. That's why my students watch 26 videos, write 260 takeaways, call themselves out at the end of those 260 takeaways, then use the text-to-speech audio, listening to it 3 times to reboot their mind after a crash out throughout that week, listening to it a few times as a booster. This is important because having a meltdown plus memory wipe equals 0 progress. The Mindset MP3 text-to-speech file is like formatting your brain, installing new drivers so you can be fast again, instead of full of mind viruses crashing out. It's like the blue screen of death, making you quit or give up without it. The second issue is flee mode kills habits. The main thing to understand here is that you have a fight, flight, or freeze mode. Avoidant flee mode makes you run from drills and lose every habit. This means when stress hits, you run. Then you skip 2 days and the habit dies. You start all over. Cortisol rises, memory resets, and you're back at day 1 again. No drills equals no installation. It takes 30 days to develop a new habit without missing more than 2 days. Otherwise, you are an unteachable case. The third issue is megto and tariff stress turned men avoidant during August 2025 when the tariffs were installed, plus the inflation for high food prices and cost of living expenses. Since August, inflation and tariffs have hit hard. Many guys retreated into men going their own way or megto. But it's not independence, it's cluster C avoidance. They freeze, stop learning, cortisol hits, and they quit. Cortisol stress does that when you are in survival mode with massive 5-figure debt due to ADHD and overspending when depressed. Even if cluster B has no emotions and doesn't feel the depression, even with a massive frown and a depressed cortisol-filled, lethargic, tired voice, they can't hear. This is key because tariffs and inflation made avoidance look like strength, like you are waiting until later on. It's not. It's freeze mode. Retrain your mind, or you have another meltdown due to too much cortisol stress, and you'll stay stuck. Once you quit, you usually quit for 10 years before you come back. But your hippocampus shrunk, can't learn anything new. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's hard to fix your brain when life keeps kicking you in the balls with bills, debt, and pressure, making you want to run away. Well, the tricky thing is that stress doesn't just make you tired, it rewires your brain to keep avoiding. Once you understand the biology, you can break it with the right protocols. This next video criticized direct game with a huge numbers game, talking about how RSD-style spam approach doesn't work anymore with more economic stress, with more cortisol stress hormone. Disabling the numbers game and creepy mystery method game techniques. The real reason you're stuck in 2025 day game isn't looks, race, or height. It's your cluster B ego, cortisol voice, and worship of other fake dating coaches are the real reasons you're stuck in day game now, not your looks, race, or height. I know it sounds crazy because we're so used to hearing about direct game, mass approaching, and a numbers game. And while you think that is important, I'm going to share 3 issues with you today that's going to revolutionize the way you look at day game, your own personality disorders, and how you will actually get laid in 2025 and 2026. So what is really going on under the surface with your day game results during the tariffs era? It's the 3 cluster B and cortisol issues that are silently killing your day game results in 2025. So the first issue is cluster B personality disorder relied on fake confidence, ego theatrics, and mystery method techniques and RSD zombie mass approach tactics. The big idea here is cluster B personality disorder, because their whole system is built on a numbers game, not skills. Cluster B personality means sociopath cold logic, narcissistic ego, borderline mood swings, and histrionic show-off behavior. This is the fastest way to get cancelled, with direct game or fail. This is important because the zombies keep relying on mass approaching and direct game compliments, collecting flaky numbers instead of building social skills, social calibrations, emotional control, and the arrow science. Maneuver, sexualize, and objections looping. So in 2025 and 2026, they get auto-rejected no matter what. They don't have any skills since they half-ass it with game techniques with mass approaching, like zombies. My students has to drill the skills down rehearsing until it's second nature to raise their 20 out of 35. The line of fuckability for day game, they can't pass anymore. The second issue is cluster B emotional instability plus a cortisol damaged depressed voice tone gets you automatically rejected in under 3 seconds in 2025 because women now filter you out by how you sound before they even process your words. The main thing to understand here is that these guys don't just look unstable, they sound unstable. Fast nervous speech from cortisol, panic voice with strained breathing, either super quiet, weak delivery or flat, depressed energy with no emotional range, sighing at the end of sentences, over-talking, interrupting, frantic borderline and ADHD scatter energy. After the inflation and tariff stress of 2025 and 2026, men are losing more, stacked with ADHD failures, so their cortisol stays high and their voice gets more damaged. In 2019 to 2023, that was called game or high energy. In 2025, it signals instability, danger, low emotional intelligence, and zero survival value. So women reject you based on voice and emotional frequency before you finish the direct opener. This means if you keep talking fast with a weak, depressed, high cortisol voice, direct game dies on contact, and the only guys who still get results are the ones who train with my John Elite style emotional control, slow whitewash tonality, and secure masculine behavior for social calibrations. The third issue is other day game coaches themselves were cluster B, narcissists, borderlines, sociopaths, and histrionics. In the past, this was called dark triad personality disorder, or sociopath, narcissist, and Machiavellian manipulation. But the DSM-5, or the newest diagnostic manual, has the cluster B personality disorders and the different traits of narcissism I talked about in my last video. The other day game coaches are building a business model on manipulating your delusions with marketing, bootcamp hype, and mass approach confidence, instead of actually building your social skills, social calibrations, emotional control, and the arrow science. They showed you mystery method routines, direct game compliments, mass approaching, and bench hug camps or day game boot camps, but never taught social calibrations, social skills, or emotional control because they don't know it. It was always looks, money, status plus game, and their whole model depended on your low self-esteem, desperation, fantasy thinking, and worshipping the halo effect, assuming tall, white, jack, or high SMB coaches must be right. Just because the day game sheeps got laid before with a numbers game. When inflation and tariffs hit, direct game and romantic sexual flirts died in 2025. The other day game coaches had no new day game laid testimonials during the inflation and tariff era, just the pandemic era, while my students still got results. This is key because if you keep following cluster V coaches selling hype, boot camps, and mass approaches, you stay a zombie chasing marketing illusions that can easily get them canceled. Not getting students late in 2025 and 2026 because they have zero real day game laid testimonials this year. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's that you can still play a numbers game, use direct game and mass approaching like before, and eventually brute force your way into results in 2025 and 2026 doing it your way. Of course, you will think that because you think if you can get results in the past, then you can do it now, not knowing the inflation and tariffs are shutting you down for your cluster B personality traits. When you fail, you will get more emotionally triggered and get burnt out faster, not realizing that it is really a cortisol issue. This is the fastest way to get canceled. The tariffs started in August in 2025. However, the threat of the tariffs were throughout the earlier part of the year, but you still mentally shut down for your cluster B personality disorder and turned into a zombie, being delusional. Well, the tricky thing is that before inflation and tariffs, shorter guys could add extra approaches and sometimes still win. If he was below the 5'9" national average, like 5'8", he could do an extra 200 approaches, or 5'7", another 400. For if he is 5'6", and he has to do another 600 extra on top of whatever he would have done, and so forth. But not anymore in 2025 and 2026 during the tariff era. So now you are losing nonstop with ADHD failures and cortisol from money stress, ruining your voice and behavior, sounding like a depressed snowflake zombie. So women auto rejects you in 2026. For the next video, you may not believe this, but there are some students without any memory whatsoever like a zombie. The more cortisol stress you have, it can shrink your hippocampus part of your brain, the part responsible for moving the short-term memory. into the long-term memory. So how can you learn? If you are losing so badly in life, wiping your memory. Did you know that cortisol shrinks your hippocampus, the part of your brain that forms new memories and regulates emotions, so you can't learn anything new, and you literally start all over? If you are a loser, like your mental hard drive can't write new memories, especially in 2025. During the inflation and tariff era, I know it sounds crazy, because we're so used to hearing that you should half-ass day game with game tactics. And while that is important, I'm going to share 3 issues with you today that will revolutionize the way you understand the psychology of a day gamer. So like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. The algorithm's been hostile lately, but this is the only channel getting students laid from day game consistently in 2025. So what is, you are a loser, or a total loser? You will always experience the winner and loser effect. It's simple. The more you win, the more testosterone you get. However, the more you lose, the more cortisol stress you get. That destroys your hippocampus, which destroys your memory. So the first issue is, stress and losing constantly are killing your memory. The big idea here is, every year, the economy gets worse. Tariffs, inflation, and constant losses. This is important because cortisol destroys your hippocampus, the part of your brain that forms new memories and regulates emotions. You start forgetting what you learned the next day. You stop improving. You get stuck at the same level, or the starting level, for months. You become an unteachable case, a zombie. The second issue is, you can't remember a single drill I teach for day game. The main thing to understand here is, it's 2025, and you still can't remember one assignment I gave you. You watch the video, do the drill, and tomorrow it's gone. Like a goldfish, you start all over again from zero, like a zombie with no memory. Because you keep losing in every area of your life outside your logical job. You're probably good at one thing, coding, engineering, due to Asperger's syndrome. But when it comes to social skills, social calibration, and emotions, your hippocampus is fried, and you can't form new habits. The third issue is, you must reprogram your brain by force. In 2025, watching a video from Elite Tonality Mastery once isn't enough. My students now go through every single video 6 times before it even sticks. They don't just watch. They write down takeaways on a Google document. Every day, they write a field report. What they did right, what they did wrong, and what to fix. Then, they record a video calling themselves out on every mistake. They have to listen to it for an hour. This is key, because only then does the brain start remembering. You have to force it, drill after drill, with a field report like an external brain. Otherwise, you're going to wake up every morning like it's day one, still clueless, still broke, still lonely. Your hippocampus shrunk. It's neurotoxicity, brain damage. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's that you always were like this. Well, the tricky thing is that you are cluster B personality, a narcissistic sociopath, with borderline personality and a histrionic personality, or a show-off, which has severe ADHD with Asperger's or autism. You half-ass things. You fail. You get depressed. More cortisol. Overspending. For this next video, anytime a student has a one-track mind, they declare their crazy decision is correct. They gatekeep the truth with their insanely bad delusions. They will quit right away, being a know-it-all. It usually fails completely in 4 months. The number one reason you're still stuck in 2025 for day game isn't your height, race, or the economy. It's your narcissistic ego refusing to change anything I tell you when I am training you. Did you know that there are students that refuse to change their haircut, refuse to slow down their voice from speaking fast, or be less depressed sounding, refuse to follow drills because they think they already know better, or say their workout plan is better, but my students are twice as big in just a few weeks? Or they refuse to use supplements because of side effects. I know it sounds crazy because we're so used to hearing that they are enough because they got some results before. So they think they will get it again in 2025 and even 2026 playing a numbers game. And while you think that is important, I'm going to share 3 issues with you today that's going to revolutionize the way you are stuck for day game. Nobody outside of my students got laid in 2025. Not in New York for day gamers. Not Reddit forums outside of one natural with no proof there. And none for other day game coaches or global game platform scammers. You are stubborn with a one-track mind and refuse to change when I give you advice. It's because you are a total narcissist with a massive ego and super low self-esteem. So the first issue is, have you ever met a guy who refuses to change his haircut, refuses to slow down his voice from speaking fast, or be less depressed sounding, refuses to follow drills because he thinks he already knows better, or says their workout plan is better? But my students are twice as big in just a few weeks. or refuses to use supplements because of side effects. The big idea here is these people are narcissists who are experts in their own minds. They aren't here to learn anything because I am not training them, I am just advising their mental bullshit. These are cluster B personality types who are losers. The more they lose, the more cortisol they get. That shrinks their hippocampus, as I said in the first video, which means they can't remember anything, and they get stuck in their delusions during the tariff era, increasing their cortisol and running away even more with cluster C avoidant personality disorder. This is important because they are losers, are total fucking losers. The more they lose, they become more delusional, half-assing it with mass approaches and zero skills. Then they make bad decisions, then quit, stonewalling you, muting your notifications. With severe ADHD, they have low self-esteem, higher ego, acting like a zombie. The second issue is stubbornness, the one-track mind. The main thing to understand here is that they refuse to change and would rather quit than listen to you. They have such a grandiose self-image of themselves that they refuse to change their stubborn opinions as facts. This means the 5 traits of stubbornness is a one-track mind, bad decisions that fail in 4 months, a meltdown. Then they quit, then they later resurrect themselves to go back to stage 1. This is a cluster B personality narcissistic sociopath, borderline histrionic, mixed with cluster C avoidant types. The third issue is they have multiple traits of a narcissistic personality disorder. There are categories of it. Grandiose or overt narcissism is these so-called experts. In their own mind, they are perfect, so how can you give them advice because they might get previous results in the past for Tinder or night game, even though day game is harder. The covert vulnerable narcissists are the ones who sulk and get upset, beating themselves up. They don't take rejection well and will beat themselves up with meltdowns. The somatic narcissist shows off their body. The malignant narcissists are the worst. They will smear campaign you with pure lies like a cluster B malignant narcissistic sociopath without taking any responsibility. These are the worst types, dark tetrad types, sadistic sociopaths. The communal narcissist thinks they are helping others with their Reddit forums for the worst cluster B personality day game advice in the world when nobody got laid in 2025 for day game there. These sheeps worship RSD and mystery method when direct game no longer works in 2025 for day game. The blind leading the blind. Out of 770,000 people, not a single one got laid for day game with their shitty advice. Just a natural did, giving others advice as he shows off his body or muscles, or how much money he has. Other day game coaches can't get students laid anymore for day game except me, due to the inflation and tariffs creating cortisol in 2025. Looks, money, status plus game isn't enough. Without social skills, social calibrations, or emotional control, since you sound depressed, you aren't over the line of fuckability, 20 out of 35 then. This is key because you are a total loser who kept losing non-stop in life due to severe ADHD, or just a loser who had a few victories because you were a high-value hard case. Now your ego is higher from having girlfriends or lays before. Now you won't accept advice, doing it your old way, so the shorter students beat you. Now I know what you're thinking. You think you can still play a numbers game, and it worked for you in the past doing it your way. Well, the tricky thing is that in the past, if you're below 5'9", the national average of Americans, you could still do 200 extra approaches. If you're 5'8", it's 400 extra approaches, and so on to get laid. Now it doesn't work during an inflation and tariff era in 2025 and 2026 due to cortisol stress in your voice. And so I've created this elite bundle resurrections so you can have all the steps you have to follow and stop being a narcissist, considering if it sits well with your zombie delusions, grandiose narcissism of a low self-esteem, triggered zombie loser, who is so egotistical, citing that you had lays from Tinder or night game before. Well, is that working for you in 2025 and soon to be 2026? No, then shut up already. And I, as the world's best day game coach who has 671 laid and pulled testimonials for day game, what I do is give you all the steps, and I tell you that if you follow this, like getting a haircut exactly like my students, or not going direct, are not resisting supplementation, or trying to teach yourself, are trying to use your own workout plan because you used to be big, since you're such a fucking narcissist. Do it my way, get laid faster. Do it your way, you won't get laid because you are not the expert. It's 2025 and soon to be 2026. If only one day game system is working and the others aren't, then you are living in the past. You have to adapt to my way whether you like it or not. It's the only thing that still works. You low self-esteem, triggered narcissist. So what I've done is I've set up all the drills and exercises for you to level up your skills, as long as you don't skip out more than 2 days, because you will not develop a habit doing that. Because you're lazy and you have severe ADHD, which lowers your self-esteem and raises your ego. If you click the link in the description, you can get laid this year or next year. I also have the 3MP bundle, which stands for Mating Marriage Mastery. This program is for people that are hard cases or impossible cases who need a lot more help than elite bundle resurrections, who need to have more one-on-one, hands-on training for longer periods of time during the day, going through every single programs online, excluding the boot camp. But today I'm talking about the elite bundle resurrections, which is amazing. I'm John Elite, and I can't wait to see you on the inside. Have a great day. Alright, that's why they're unteachable. On this channel, John Elite Dating, I don't hold back. Also, YouTube's algorithm just scanned your brain, and it thinks this next video on the end screen is exactly what you need. Click it, see if it's right. I'll meet you in the comments.